Hey, welcome back. Sometimes the most profound changes in our world start with something that sounds, well, a little ridiculous. Like a group of men sitting down to a fine government-subsidized dinner, knowing full well that every bite is laced with poison. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is The Great Conversation. Today, we're diving into a story where bizarre science, shocking literature, and pure human desperation collided to change what was on every American dinner table. This is episode 32, The Poison Squad, the bizarre FDA origins, and Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. Let's set the scene. It's the turn of the 20th century in America. The Industrial Revolution is in full, sooty swing. Cities are bursting, and for the first time in history, more people are buying their food than producing it themselves. And in this brand new, unregulated marketplace, it was the Wild West. Milk was diluted with water and formaldehyde to keep it fresh. Candy was colored with lead and copper salts. Potted meat. Well, we'll get to that. There was no FDA, no real labeling laws. You simply had to trust that the can of peas wasn't full of botulism, or that your strawberry jam actually contained a strawberry. Enter Dr. Harvey Washington Wiley. He was the chief chemist at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a man utterly horrified by the chemical free-for-all in American food. He knew these preservatives and adulterants were dangerous, but he needed proof. Concrete, undeniable, human proof. So, in 1902, he launched what might be the strangest clinical trial in history. He recruited a squad of young, healthy male volunteers from the Department of Agriculture. Their mission? To eat delicious, chef-prepared meals 3 times a day in a basement dining room. The catch? Their food would be deliberately contaminated with increasing doses of common food additives like borax, salicylic acid, and formaldehyde. They became known, famously, as the Poison Squad. Now imagine this. These men were heroes in a way, signing waivers and subjecting themselves to intense medical scrutiny. They had to eat every morsel, and if they got sick, they were replaced. Newspapers covered their exploits like a sporting event. There were poems and songs written about them, but the reality was grim. They suffered nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, and sheer misery. Wiley's point was being made, spectacularly and publicly. What we were putting in our food to preserve it was, in many cases, preserving the consumer, too. The Poison Squad created a national conversation. It made the abstract danger of adulteration visceral, personal, and downright dramatic. But public outrage, as we know, is a flickering flame. It needed fuel to become a lasting fire. And that fuel came not from a scientist's report, but from a novelist's pen. Enter Upton Sinclair, a young, socialist muckraking journalist. In 1904, he went undercover for 7 weeks in the sprawling stockyards of Chicago, a place known as Packingtown. He witnessed things that haunted him, and he poured that horror into a novel he called The Jungle. His aim was to write the Uncle Tom's Cabin of wage slavery, to expose the brutal, inhuman exploitation of immigrant workers. The story of Jurgis Rudkus, a Lithuanian immigrant, and his family being chewed up and spit out by the relentless machinery of capitalism. And he did that powerfully. But when America read The Jungle in 1906, they skimmed past the chapters about lost limbs and tuberculosis and child labor. They got stuck, utterly revolted, on a few pages about what went into the meat. Sinclair described it all: the rats that overran the facilities, the poisoned bread set out to kill them, the rat corpses going into the grinding vats. He wrote of workers, some with tuberculosis, falling into the vats and being rendered, along with the offal and scraps, into Durham's pure leaf lard. He detailed how spoiled meat was doctored with chemicals to mask the smell and color, then canned and sold. The public's stomach turned. Sales of meat plummeted by 50% overnight. Legend has it that President Theodore Roosevelt, reading the book over breakfast, supposedly threw his sausage out the window in disgust. Sinclair's literary aim had missed its mark, but it created a political explosion. He famously lamented, "I aimed at the public's heart, and by accident I hit it in the stomach." Roosevelt, despite his initial skepticism, invited Sinclair to the White House and dispatched investigators. Their secret report confirmed conditions even worse than Sinclair had described. The pressure was now overwhelming. And here, the path of the Poison Squad and the path of the jungle converged. Wiley's years of meticulous, bizarre science had laid the groundwork, proving the chemical dangers. Sinclair's visceral, emotional narrative created the unstoppable public demand for action. The result was the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, signed into law by Teddy Roosevelt. It was the first lasting, federal legislation to prohibit the interstate transportation of adulterated food and drugs. It required active ingredients to be listed on labels. It was the cornerstone, the absolute genesis, of what would become the Food and Drug Administration. It wasn't perfect, it was just a beginning, but it established a radical idea that the government had a responsibility to ensure the basic safety of what you bought to eat. Now, I think about this story from my own perspective as an engineer and an immigrant. I see two different kinds of problem solving. Wiley's was the engineer's method, systematic, empirical, building a case fact by painful fact. Sinclair's was the storyteller's method, emotional, narrative, building a case through human experience and moral outrage. One appealed to reason, the other to the gut. And history shows us that for a society to actually move, to enact profound change, you need both. You need the data and the story, the proof and the parable. The Poison Squad gave the movement credibility. The jungle gave it a heartbeat. It makes me wonder about the poison squads and the jungles in our world today. What are the slow, incremental, data-heavy fights being waged by modern-day Dr. Wiley's? And where are the shocking, visceral stories, the modern jungles, that might crystallize a public's vague anxiety into undeniable demand for change? It's a powerful blueprint for how transformation happens. So the next time you glance at a nutrition label or feel a moment of trust that the medicine in the bottle is what it says it is, remember this odd, dark, and ultimately hopeful origin story. Remember the men who ate poisoned butter for science. Remember the novelist who wanted to save workers' souls and ended up saving our stomachs. Their combined legacy is a reminder that progress often comes from the most unexpected and sometimes unappetizing of places. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Great Conversation. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone. It helps more people find these hidden threads of history. For more episodes, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, keep listening, keep questioning, and stay part of the conversation.